What's up, Internet? You're tuned in to episode 128 of the PotsCast. I'm your honorable host, Mr. Pete and Bessie, joined today by the man I thought I could trust, Mr. Stephen Bradford.
Hello.
Hello, Steve. First of all, I have to say, how dare you? How dare you come back to this show 2 weeks in a row after you promised me, you promised the listeners, you said you were going to get Mass Effect, you know? And
it's been a busy couple of weeks.
so you say that, Steve, right? But then I look at our show notes, and we have a little segment every week on this show. Last week we skipped it, very busy week, and this week it's what we're playing, right? We talk about what games we've been playing, and on this week's show, Steve highlights. He says, "Skip this as we're tight on time today?" ? First of all, we have 3 other segments. Second of all, I see not 1, not 2, but 3. 3 games
one
on
of
this
those
list,
doesn't
Steve.
count because, you were like, can you play Hitman this week? I've had a really long day at work. I need, I just can't. I'm not feeling streaming.
Fine.
So that one doesn't count.
Fine, Steve.
But
Fine.
the other 2, one of
Fine.
them, I played like 5 minutes of because I wanted to see what it was like. And then the other one, it's like
5 minutes of it. 5 minutes because you wanted to see what it was like. You know what, Steve, is interesting to me is if you had bought the fucking game, you could have played like 5 minutes of Mass Effect and we could have talked about it. But no.
No.
You know how easy it would have been to check this box for me? Do you know how easy it would have been? But no, you refuse. You just don't care. And you're like, I have to finish Tomb Raider because if I don't finish Tomb Raider, I'll never finish Tomb Raider.
And it's a trilogy, so you've got to finish all 3.
Are you fucking kidding me? Are you kidding me? Steve, okay, well, you know what? Then I guess I have one thing to say to that, which is thank you so much for the Stardew Valley board game. I really appreciate that gift from you.
No way.
I mean, that's what we said. That's what we agreed.
No, I don't think we did agree with that.
I don't know though. I've heard it both ways.
I need my board game, Pete.
I need you to play Mass Effect like you promised me.
I will at some point. I'm just not in a Mass Effect-y kind of mood at the moment. That's the problem.
How do you even know? You don't even know what the game's like.
I do know what the game's like.
Oh yeah, why? Because you saw your dad play 5 minutes of Mass Effect 3?
I saw my dad playing it, and I was just like, oh, I don't know. And I'm sure it'll be different if I play it, but I was like, oh.
You mean if you see the third? You know what?
The third one's meant to be the best, right? Or the second one?
You're a rat bastard. The second one's the best one.
Okay. Well, I also listened to Triple Quick, and all of them were saying either play the first one on stupidly easy mode because it's really frustrating, or skip it and just go straight to number 2.
Just play the first one on easy. I don't know. I think that I understand someone saying that, but I think it's bad advice. I think if you've played the original trilogy multiple times and you feel like you want to skip Mass Effect 1, that's your prerogative.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you've never played it before, or like this is only like, if you're like me and you played the originals, once or twice maybe years ago, and then have not come back, like they made a lot of changes to Mass Effect 1 that make it a lot better. It's still the clunkiest.
Well, I know
3.
that they said there were still bits like the driving bits were horrible. The fact that the sniper rifle was still a bit wonky in number 1, but it's like totally fixed in number 2.
Yeah, they totally fixed that.
And I think it was Maddie said there's a lot of corridors. You just go down, you fight all the enemies, you get to the end, you press a button, and you walk all the way back. And like none of that sounds fun. So if I can skip a lot of that and just play it on easy mode, blast through the enemies, press the buttons, come back, then that'll be the way for me to go.
That's totally fine. Because I think the things that are important about Mass Effect 3 are the story. Like, you want to have those story beats. You want to make the big decisions. Because, like, there are, like, moments in Mass Effect 3 that you won't fully appreciate if you don't play 1. And, like, having the story grow with you in that way is, like, the coolest thing about Mass Effect. So you definitely want to play 1. But I think play it on easy mode and just, just blast your way through it. That's totally fine. And, like, you can skip a lot of the, like, side quests. Like, I think a lot of them are worth doing because they have like good story beats and are fun. But then there are like a bunch of side quests that are just like, go here, kill some guys, get some stuff. And like, you take those resources with you into the next game, so it's not like useless to do. But it's definitely like optional, you know? So like if you just played the main game, did all of the like key side quests, like the companion missions and, you know, like any of the like stuff that like catches your attention, that's like fine. And you could get through the entirety of that game in probably under 20 hours if you play it that way.
Yeah, I think Kirk said he got through it in like 11 hours, something like
Yeah,
that.
that sounds about right. I think I spent like it was between 15 and 20. I just beat it this past week, and I moved on to Mass Effect 2 now. And I'm just barely I'm like at the very beginning of Mass Effect 2, where they're like, all right, go find your crew. And it's like, all right, I'm going to go find my crew. So early days there for sure. But yeah, I think it took me between like 15 and 20 for the first one. But I also did almost every side quest. I didn't do like some of the. There's like a few that are like very like fetch questy, where it's like go here and like scan a thing, and I'm like, nah, I don't want to do that. But if it was anything that had a story beat, I went and did it.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. I wonder if there's a list online of like quests you must do
There
in
definitely is.
Mass Effect and skip all the
Hell,
collective
Steve,
fun ones.
I'll make the fucking list for you if you want.
That'd be a great article, you know, or a
Yeah,
great video.
yeah, but the thing is, you're not going to use it, so it's just like, what am I doing?
Well, you know, I might one day. We'll see.
You're you're a bad person. You're a bad dude.
Hey, how many times have I asked you to play Hitman and you've just not? And you're just like,
that
oh, I know these are my kind of games. I'm just not in the mood for a Hitman at the
That's what you're gonna throw in
moment.
my face now. That's what you're gonna throw in my face. You've been asking me to play that game for like a few months, and I'm like, yeah, no, I'm gonna get it. And now you're like, oh, I promised you to your face on the air twice I was gonna pick up a game this week, and you're gonna compare those things. Because I was never like, yeah, I'm gonna buy it tomorrow. I was like, I'm gonna keep my ass open for a deal, and I'm gonna buy it when I have a gap, and I'm gonna play it, and I'm gonna enjoy
That's
it.
what I'm doing, you know.
But
Keep
you're
my eyes
not gonna
open
do
for
it,
the deal.
Steve. That's the thing. You're a fucking liar. The moment will pass. Some other game's gonna come and you're gonna be like, well, I don't really have time to commit to 3 games right now, so I'm never gonna play them.
I will play them. I will play them.
That's what you tell me. That's what you tell me. It means nothing
You
now,
know,
Steve.
maybe you need to put it as, you know, one of the prediction bets. You know, maybe that's what we need to do.
Oh, what? Now I have to force you to do it with a bet? What, so
Yeah,
then
you
can
have to force me.
So then you'll still not buy
No,
it?
because I can't renege on a bet, can I?
I mean, I don't know. You've reneged on personal promises to a dear friend, so who's to say what you're capable of? Anyway, I guess we'll talk more about it next week because we got some news to get into. But I gotta say, Steve, I'm disappointed. If you had asked me to make predictions about which of my friends would betray me, I don't think it would have been you. You know?
Really? This is not on brand for me when I've like told you a million times I'm gonna play certain games and then don't play them. That's like totally me.
I know, but I thought that this was
The way I see it, Pete, is like I want to spend my minor amount of time I have to play games in a week on a game that I want to play. And like actively I'm excited about playing. And at the moment I'm not actively excited about playing Mass Effect.
I mean, you know what? It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. So, you know, we're going to talk about...
I was excited about playing Tomb Raider though.
Oh, great. I'm so happy that you're
Rise of the
excited.
Tomb Raider is like a massive improvement from number one. Like you've not played these series because you skipped off on the definitive edition, right?
I played the original Tomb Raider on 360 for a few hours, and it didn't quite click with me. And I just
that's fair.
never went back to it.
The second one's a massive step up. You've got depth of character. There's flashbacks. You learn more about her, what her motivations are. Feels a little bit too much like Uncharted in the fact that she's got this book and she's following her dad's story, which I guess is also Indiana Jones. So it's kind of
They're all the
all
same.
copying each other.
They're all just ripping each other off.
But she's not weak and pathetic anymore. And my God, the graphics, the gameplay, everything is a massive step up. So I'm having a good time with it. I'm not massively far into it. I'm still in like the tutorial bit where it's telling me the controls again, even though most of them are the same as the first one. Although there's one that's really annoying. You know, she has that like mode that's similar to Hitman where she can like see things around her if you press the
Yeah,
button.
yeah.
They moved that button. It was left bumper, they moved it to the left stick, but they replaced that button with heal. And you use like your resources
Oh
up. So I'm constantly
no!
pressing that fucking button and using my resources. I'm like, no!
Can you
It's
switch
the
it?
most infuriating thing. No.
Oh my god, that's infuriating. That's
So
that's
I was not happy.
that's bad. Um, speaking of not happy, Steve, I gotta tell you, I when I looked at the what you played this week, I didn't realize that it was Rise of the Tomb Raider. So you're telling me you finished Tomb Raider and moved on to
Yeah, I
the second
finished
one?
Tomb
You're
Raider like
such a
two
son
weeks
of a
ago.
bitch.
We were
You're
going to
so-
talk about it last week, but we skipped it. Or the week before last, you were like, I know you've got stuff to say about Tomb Raider, but we haven't got time. And I was like, okay, fine. I was going to tell you that I finished the game, but I progressed on to Rise of the Tomb Raider, which is a significantly better game.
you're
And
such a rat bastard.
and if I would just say to anyone listening, if you fell off of Tomb Raider, the original one, skip it. Go find out what happened at the end of that game, and it follows in straight away to Rise of the Tomb Raider. You don't really need to play. You just need to know what
doesn't
happens, and then you can progress on.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a game that's like the story matters a ton, right? Like,
No, it doesn't. Yeah, it's a real weak story on the first one, and the second one seems to be a little bit better. But yeah, very much like an Uncharted.
yeah, and like the whole plot of the first game is like Laura's a spoiled rich girl and she survives on an island. Okay, got it.
Yeah, it sort of reminds me of Jurassic Park 2, when they pay to go to the island where
Yeah.
the dinosaurs were, and they're these rich, annoying people, and they brought along Dr. Malcolm with them, and he's just got to look after them the entire
What a
time.
great plot
Basically
for a
that plot.
movie, though. Like it's basically it's like the Fire Festival. Like you
Oh
remember
yeah,
that, and like how
I do
everyone on
remember
social
that. That was like
media.
the most mental documentary on Netflix.
I've still never watched the documentary, but I was like eagerly following it on Twitter just because it was like, man, it's really funny to see a bunch of these like rich trust fund jags like just
Yeah.
stranded on this
It's
shitty
quite sad
island.
though. Like when you watch it, it's funny that they got, all their money wasted, maybe. But it's the people that put on the event on this island who thought that this money was going to come in and help their local
Well,
economy and
don't
help them out.
don't make it real, Steve. I wanted to laugh at the rich kids. Not now. I feel bad.
And like, none of these people got paid. They did all the work and none of them got a penny.
That's not surprising.
No, that sucks. Though.
Look. We talk about the evils of capitalism over on the pots or on After Dark, and you know what I'm realizing now, Steve. 14
Yeah, I'm
minutes
done
into
the
the
plugs.
episode is that I've never done the plugs. So welcome everyone to this episode of the PotsCast, LootPots.com's weekly gaming podcast, where Steve and I get together and talk about what games we're playing, the news, and a bunch of other stuff. If you want to support the show, you can head wherever you get your podcasts. It posts every Monday. Give us a like. Share it with a friend. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Go check out our streams every Thursday night on twitch.tv/lootpots, where last week we streamed some Hitman 3. What else do we do, Steve? That's it. After Dark. That's for $1. You go to Patreon. Boom. I did it. There we
Discord
go.
in the description. Go follow us on Discord. Great community over there.
You can write into the show. That's the
Yeah.
other thing you can do. There you go. We did it. 15 minutes in. Latest plugs in the show. You know what? People have said they like the cold opens. Talk about a cold
They
open.
do. That was a real cold open. And before we move on to the news, I do just want to highlight Watch Dogs Legion, which this week got, I think, the best update they possibly could have done. They added a 60 frames per second mode on next gen consoles, well, current gen consoles now, so Series X and PS5.
How's it look?
It removes ray tracing for reflections. Ray tracing for shadows still seems to be there, at least to my eyes. I'd imagine Digital Foundry will do a breakdown. But this game should have had this mode at launch. It feels so much better than the 30 frames per second mode. I've come to realize that ray tracing is great and it looks wonderful when it works. But if it sacrifices 30 frames when I just don't want that. I want a 60 frame per second smooth gameplay.
It's not worth it.
This game is like transformed by playing in 60 frames per second.
Really, it's that much better.
Oh yeah, like in places you were getting sub 30 and you could really feel it. It was like laggy, it was like walking through honey. And even on a variable refresh display, you still feel that slowdown because it's less responsive. And with 60 frames per second, because it's, it's a shooter essentially, it's so much nicer to play.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's really crazy, like how used to 30 I was, like locked 30, that like it was always like, like I don't mind it as long as it doesn't dip. But yeah, just seeing so many of these games I've played before get 60 FPS patches, it really does make a big difference in like the moment to moment gameplay. Makes things feel so much more fluid.
Yeah, I know. I'm so jealous you'll be able to play The Last of Us 2 in 60 frames per second if you ever replay it now.
Yeah.
It's something I can't at the moment because obviously I don't have a PS5. Um, but yeah, it's awesome that all these are getting updates. But going from something like Hitman 3 to over to Watch Dogs, it was so jarring because you've just been playing a super smooth 60 frames per second game, or even if you come from something like Dirt 5, which plays at 120 hertz, it's like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. So it's nice to have the mode. I'm hoping at some point more developers, as time progresses, I think it will easily happen. These are like the early cross-gen games that we'll be able to see more games with the 60 frames per second and ray tracing, like Spider-Man Miles Morales did. So we'll just have to see.
Yeah, I think we probably will see that sooner or later. Like if I had to guess, just because, there's only I don't know, there's only so far that we can go before like devs start being able to get more power out of the systems. But then I guess there's also the trade-off there of that like we're going to be trying to do more with them. So,
I think part of it is probably when we see stuff like Unreal Engine 5 being released next year in this full stable version, that's
yeah.
when a lot of devs will be able to tap into it. And also when new projects that start and they are just new gen only and we can forget the PS4 and the Xbox One. Because thinking about going back to that base Xbox One that you've got to target, which only ever hit 900p at launch, it's got to be really tough to get it working on that and also a Series X at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And we'll talk more about that in the news when we get to the PlayStation side
Mhm.
of things. So we'll put a pin in that for now, but we'll definitely be talking more about that dichotomy in a bit. So let's jump into the news. So the first item on the news list this week is something that we've literally talked about on the show pretty recently, and something that I've lamented quite a bit in the past. So super pleasing to see some movement on it. This comes from Wario64 was where I saw it. Like Nintendo made a post on their Japanese corporate website, but obviously we don't read Japanese, so appreciate Wario64 for the translation. Wario tweeted, Nintendo announces quote-unquote Nintendo Gallery, tentatively named, in Japan at its Nintendo Yuji Ogura plant. Expected to be completed sometime around April 2023 to March 2024. Quote, Nintendo's historical products will be showcased and exhibits and experiences will be available. They have like a little image of like the campus and everything too. Like this is one of Nintendo's main offices. This
It's
is
gonna look really cool if that's what it looks like, the artist representation, I presume.
Yeah, I'm imagining that with like a little bit more branding, you know?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's gonna have like Nintendo on the side. I hope there's like some Mario or some like,
I think they
characters
will.
around. Yeah.
Yeah, I would be surprised if they didn't, frankly. Like a nice big Mario statue outside, something like that. You know what I would love to see them do? I don't. I know you've never been, but have you seen pictures of Disney World?
Yeah, I've been to Disneyland, if there's any similar to that.
Okay, I don't know if they have this in Disneyland, but like there's that statue of like Walt Disney like holding
Next
Mickey
to
Mouse's
holding Mickey's
hand.
hand. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
and they're
at
like,
Disney Studios in Paris, yeah.
yeah. They should do that with Miyamoto and Mario.
Yes. Just totally rip it.
That would be so funny. Oh my gosh. But yeah, I am really excited about this. It's funny because, we were talking about it on stream last week, I think, about like if you could like travel anywhere, like where would you want to
Mhm.
go? And no, like all expenses paid or whatever, and we both said Japan. And I've wanted to go to Japan for a long time. It's definitely a place that I'd like to plan a like a long trip to. And now that this is happening, I'm like, this is kind of the excuse I feel like I needed. Like
This plus Nintendo World, plus like you can visit all of the other places you wanted to
yeah,
go.
like I really want to see some rural Japan. Like after I played Ghost of
Yeah.
Tsushima, I was like, oh, the landscape here is so fucking beautiful. I want to see this in real life. Are you kidding me? Like I want to go for a hike in like rural Japan and like just sit on a mountainside and just look at the nature. Such a beautiful country.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely. Like, I think it was ITV or maybe the BBC did a documentary series a few years back in the UK, which is probably worth seeking out if you're interested, just called Japan. And they went to all of the different areas of Japan and showed what there was. And there's like one little part of Japan where there's just like monkeys that live and they're like kind of worshipped and seen as like sacred creatures and stuff because it was like their natural habitat. It's just so strange that you don't really know any of that. When you think of Japan, you kind of think of Tokyo and that big like crossing where everyone is.
yeah, you're thinking of like
Uh,
Shibuya. You're thinking of like the
uh-huh.
fashion district. Like all the all these things. I can never say the fashion district's name. It's like Han.
Hanamura?
Is that it?
I don't know
Yeah, it's
off the
it's
top
either
of
that or
my head.
Hanjuku. I forget. I always say it wrong every single time, so I just call it the fashion district.
You're gonna have to learn if you go. You're gonna have to at least
Well,
learn
yeah, if
some
I go, I'm
phrases.
gonna learn everything. I'm gonna get a
Yeah.
guidebook.
Like I was genuinely looking to go a few years back. Obviously, my circumstances changed, but I was watching like Japanese videos, learning about the culture, like even basic stuff that you don't realize, like the fact that you can't walk
Hand.
and eat in the streets because it's really
Oh,
rude, and you're meant to eat what you buy outside of the place and then put it in the bin. So if you
yeah.
go to like 7-Eleven and you get like a onigiri, you have to eat it there and then put it in the bin because otherwise people will be really offended.
And like you're not supposed to hand people money. Like there's like little trays, I know, and like
Yeah, you put
they hand
and
you the
you
tray, you
hand
put
it
the
to
money on the
them.
tray, and then you hand the
Hmm.
tray back. Stuff like that. Yeah. I know little things. I know little things. I'm prepping. Um but yeah, I mean, to take it back to the news of it, like I think this is just such a big deal. Like we talk about video game preservation a lot, and it was something I remember came up, pretty recently because of the whole conversation around the PSP and PS3 stores going down and everything, and kind of like what is the responsibility of these corporations to maintain the history of the medium because they own it, you know, and
Hmm.
I think they have an enormous responsibility because video games are an art form and it's a young art form, and we there's so much that we've already lost. There's so much game history that we've already lost, and we don't need to lose more, and there's a lot that we can still save. And like a company like Nintendo holds the keys to so much of it, because they've been such a key player for so long. They have living legends that work there. Like I remember we've talked about this when they showed off Mario Maker for the first time, and they had I almost just said Iwata Miyamoto and Gunpei Yokoi. I think it was the two of them, holding the original like sheet of graph paper that they like
Yeah, and
made.
they just like had the design document with them. It's like no white gloves
I'm
or
like,
anything.
put
It's just
some
like,
fucking
yeah,
gloves
it's like
on,
casual.
guys.
Do you know I learned that you're not meant to wear white gloves for archival material anymore because it damages the paper. You don't have the level of finesse where you're wearing
Wow,
gloves as you do with just your fingers. So you're meant to hold it at the corner and just do it a little bit at a time,
that's
not
good
wear
to
white
know.
gloves.
That's good to know. Maybe they knew that, but they didn't because
I
they were
don't think so. The way
they're
they were
they're
handling that,
fucking
they're just like
manhandling it. I'm
just
like,
casual.
I'm like Miyamoto, stop, please put it under some glass. So yeah, the fact that Nintendo holds so many things like that in their hands, like it's so exciting to think about what are the things that they could put on display that like we don't even know about, that we don't even know that are just like sitting in someone's desk somewhere, stuff like that.
100%. Like I remember when I went to the VNA and it was the Splatoon thing they had on. It was like this whole event about how video games were made, and they had Kentucky Route Zero and a bunch of other ones. But Nintendo had an event there about Splatoon, and it was like stuff that we'd never even knew about. The fact that it was it was originally rabbits, and they had like
Hmm.
just the original prototype where it's just square blocks, and like the square block would just compress, and then all of a sudden it would like you'd see like this plain bar just go up, and then it would come up, and it's just stuff like that, just like a grey box prototype that obviously happens for everything, but it's so good and so cool to see how that was the original concept and it progressed. And it
Yeah.
was like, no, rabbits aren't working for this. We need to find something else. We love the idea and the concept for the game, but this character isn't right. And obviously, it progressed to the Inklings that we know today. So it's really fun, and I'd love to see that for some of the other franchises. Imagine what there is for like Zelda
Hmm.
or Metroid, or I wonder if some Pokemon stuff will be here.
I imagine
It's
that it
really
would
cool.
be because, like, I'm thinking about how, like, they're like, if you know the history of Pokemon at all, like the pitch that was sent to Miyamoto and like he championed it and everything. Like, I bet you he has like the original pitch documents like sitting around somewhere. Like all like these old, like. Because you see that all the time. Dr. Lava on Twitter, and like they've also got a YouTube channel. They do a bunch of like lost Pokemon stuff, and like there's so much. There's so many Pokemon that have never made it to a game, or that were demoed out, or that were redesigned, and all this kind of like
I
crazy
mean, I wonder
stuff.
if there was some that they had in the past, and they were like, "This doesn't fit in this generation," that they then poured through to one of
Mm-hmm.
the other
Yep,
generations.
that's
It was so cool
happened.
to see that kind of lineage from, oh, this wasn't quite right. Now it kind of fits into the collection, which is
Yeah,
really cool.
it's so cool. And we've talked about it with like we're both big fans of like Blood, Sweat, and Pixels and Press Reset, and it's like and there's so many great books about games. Um, that the story behind the game is sometimes as interesting as the game itself, and
Hmm.
I'm just so excited to see a company with as much clout and history as Nintendo, recognize that they have a responsibility to, take care of it and like make it available to people because, so many people love what they do, and like we want to know these things. We want to see them. I want to be able to go to Japan again, when I'm 80 years old with my grandkids and go to the Nintendo museum, and see what else they've added. Like that's exciting. That's really exciting to me. So I'm really glad to see this move from Nintendo, and I hope that other developers and publishers and IP holders follow suit
Hmm.
because this kind of thing is super enriching. All right, so let's jump over to the PlayStation side of the fence because there is just a ton of news, a ton of PlayStation news this week. Um, so there was a blog post over on the PlayStation blog, where they talked to Herman Hulst, who is of course the president of Sony Worldwide Studios, and the whole thing was kind of talking with him about what's next for PlayStation Studios and, what's going on with like the current games that we have, like on the docket that we've been waiting for. And, it's not a super long interview, but there's a lot of news that came out of it pretty quickly.
Oh yeah, this is information dense, I would say. It's so
Yeah.
strange how open Herman is. Like he obviously did that interview with Wired. I know this one's more of an official setting, but he just seems to be like, fuck it.
He's
We'll
pretty
tell you
transparent.
everything that's going on. Yeah.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I appreciate. I think that, I don't know, I feel like that's something that hopefully Sony's learning because you look at like the beginning of the PlayStation 4 era, right, which was obviously a super popular and profitable time for PlayStation. And it was like coming off of the PS3 era where like Sony had so much personality. They were like, if you were somebody who watched their presentations, like you knew, like Shuhei Yoshida, you knew maybe like Adam Boyes, like there were like names that you recognized, Gio Corsi, right? Um, and it was very like, oh, like we're PlayStation and we have all these fun personalities and look at all of our weird IP and we, like
Mm.
they were very like we're the underdog and we're cool. And then like when PS4 blew up, I feel like they got more buttoned up, they got more businessy. You look at the state of plays and it's not Shuhei, it's not Adam, it's a disembodied voice talking over footage, right?
Well,
Like,
I mean, that's the same format that Nintendo's Directs have taken. You used to have those tree houses, which was, fun, friendly, colorful.
yeah,
And I know Nintendo still has a lot more of that than maybe the State of Play does, but it's very much that format of we've got one or two voiceover
yeah.
people who aren't ever credited, and this is what the format is.
And you think about like how I mean, there is what's his name though. I forget. I can never remember his name. The new guy who replaced Iwata, who's like their on-screen guy now. I can never remember
No,
his
I
name.
can't remember his name either. But he'll always do the
He has like super
the
intense
clip.
eyes. Like I can like like I can see his face as clear as day in my mind, but I can't think of his name. But you think about a couple years ago, and it was like you had Iwata, you had I almost just said Shuhei again. You had Iwata, you had Miyamoto, you had Reggie. Like
Koizumi, by the way.
Izumi, yeah. And he's good. I like him. But I think that while we've kind of seen them move away from that in their like presentation of things, I do think that he's got Herman has a little bit more. I don't know. I feel like he has a better time talking to journalists and the public. Like he seems to do well with the press, and maybe that's because he has history, as a game director, having to do the press, tours and all that kind of stuff. But I
Well, I think
appreciate that
also
he's
maybe
forthcoming.
it might come from the fact that he knows what goes into these games and why they need to be delayed, because it's not just he's some exec who's come in.
Yeah.
He is originally that manager of a studio, so he knows how tough this is, and he can probably relay that and get that across to the press a little bit more that, we need to delay X game because it's not quite ready yet, and we want to make sure that it's ready for you.
Yeah, and I think to that end too, right? Like you have to imagine that. I don't know. I love to see executives of his stature come from a background in development, because like I don't know, like I trust I trust like his timelines a little bit more when he's like, "Oh yeah, like the art like let's get into some of the announcements, right? The first one is that God of War has been officially delayed to next year." And like I like how, he was like, with God of War, the project started a little bit later, so we made the decision to push the game out to next year to ensure that Santa Monica Studios can deliver the amazing God of War that we all want to play. It's like, yeah, all right, cool. Like, take the time that you need. I feel like I personally wasn't surprised by that news. I never thought God of War was coming in 2021.
No, me neither. I mean, we the announcement we saw a logo. It wasn't like Horizon where we saw a trailer.
Right.
It really felt to me like this was in early stages of development rather than like really far along like Horizon was.
Right.
And I mean, we've also got the announcement from this blog that it's Forbidden West is on track for holiday season, but it's not set in stone. So he said, for Horizon, we think we're on track to release this holiday season, but that isn't quite certain yet. We're working as hard as we can to confirm that to you as soon as we can.
And
So we'll see. And I could see that slipping to maybe like a
easily.
March release next
Easily.
year. And I think that's fine. Everyone's had to deal with the pandemic, and there's a lot of factors in working remotely that these studios weren't set up to do, that they've had to adapt for. And I know that, maybe some places can get back into studios. I don't know what the situation's like in the Netherlands, but from hearing from some people in the community, it seems like their vaccine programs maybe not as far along as other countries. So it could be that, they're still working mainly remotely.
Oh, let's make a note of that. You good?
Yeah, did you catch what I said?
No. You said they're still working remotely, and then you cut.
Ah, they're still working remotely. So, as much as it would be great if it comes out this holiday season, it would make sense if potentially, they still have to keep working remotely for the foreseeable future, that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that either. Again, that feels like a very like honest answer. Like you look at the state of play, we talked about it last week. I think there's a good chance it does come out this year, but I also think there's a great chance that it gets delayed, because if you know anything about game design, like, oftentimes, I mean, again, right? And what do I know about game design? It's what I've read and what I've been told by developers. But generally, it seems that more often than not, especially with AAA games, the game comes together in the last couple months. That's when the game really starts to gel and coalesce. So if they're at the point now where they're like, you know, we feel pretty confident we're going to hit the end of the year, they might get to August and be like, you know what? We just don't. We need more time. We're almost there, but we still got to squash bugs and whatever.
Well, yeah, I mean, look at The Last of Us 2. They got delayed twice.
Well, please,
Then
that
it came out.
They had the state of play, and then like a week later delayed it. You remember
It
that?
got delayed, yeah.
And to me, right? Granted, the Miyamoto quote about a game being delayed becomes less and less relevant as time goes on because we can patch games or whatever, and games release and they're not great and then they get better and whatever, fine. But in my mind, I'll give that same quote but with an addendum, right, where it's like, you don't remember the delay, you remember the launch. You know, like,
well, I think the way you're going to see it as Cyberpunk is the best example of why you should delay a game. That got delayed 3 times, still wasn't cooked enough, and look at the mess.
Its
like,
legacy
they're trying
is the
to patch
mess.
it. Yeah, they're trying to patch it. They're trying to fix it. It's still not back on the PlayStation Store. You really don't want that from a first-party title. It would be embarrassing, and it would be a terrible demonstration of your brand new console. So if it takes them to delay it 6, even 12 months, then you better believe they're going to do it because they want to make sure that this game is pristine and perfect.
This is also, like, I think this series coming out party, right? Like, obviously the first Horizon was popular enough, but like it was competing with Breath of the Wild, and it kind of had all the oxygen stolen away from it, and it was out the same year that the Switch was debuted, and everybody was playing Mario by the end of the year. So it's just like, Horizon has its fans. I love Horizon, but I feel like it didn't really get a chance to shine in the way that, you know, exclusives often do. So I'm very excited for a sequel to come out now that I think the franchise has more buzz now, right? Like, if you didn't play it, you know somebody like me who did and was like, that game fucking rules. And you're probably interested in a second one. And maybe you got a shiny new PlayStation. You want a new game to play. You know, good opportunity for it. So I'm very much of the opinion of take all the time that you need for it. And that's true with both of these games. But I saw a lot of negativity around these. And I guess I'll add one more piece of information to it, and then we can kind of talk about it. Because the other news that was definitely confirmed was that both God of War, we'll call it Ragnarok. That's not its official title yet, but that's that's kind of the code name.
Unless you're in investor relations and you've popped the fan logo on your deck, as we spoke about a couple of weeks ago.
But God of War Ragnarok and Gran Turismo 7 are both going to be cross-gen. So, yeah, and there was a quote here from Herman. It said, where it makes sense to develop a title for both PS4 and PS5 for Horizon Forbidden West, the next God of War, GT7, we'll continue looking at that. And if PS4 owners want to play that game, then they can. If they want to go and play the PS5 version, that game will be there for them. And I saw a lot of negativity around this, just because, you know, obviously
a lot of it goes back to Jim Ryan's "We Believe in Generations" thing, and it really seems like this is just a total U-turn on that. We're going back to more and more games coming out being cross-gen, more and more games from PlayStation coming to PC.
Yeah, and I don't know. I gotta say, I'm kind of frustrated by that narrative. Like, and here's the thing, right? I get it. Like, if that's how you feel, you're entitled to feel that way as a consumer. Like, I'm not telling anybody how to feel, right? But for me, I just don't feel like that argument holds a ton of water, because, I mean, first of all, I always felt like that was marketing speak. We believe in generations. Yeah, that's because Xbox just came out and made a big thing about how they didn't, and this is very much your strategy. And I think that people get so focused on the short term that they don't think about the long term. Like right now, today, yes, the first couple games, the first couple big games that have come out on PlayStation 5, many of them are playable on PS4. That is not surprising at all. You know why? Because most of those games began development on PS4, right? Like Horizon for
I think the big difference is though people were comparing this back to the PS3 era. The difference is both the Xbox 360 and the PS3 ran on vastly different architectures to the PS4,
yeah.
which are both x86 processors, and then you've also got the PS5 and the Xbox Series X. They're essentially the same architecture. We've just got more bells and whistles. We've got SSDs. We've got better RAM. We've got faster GPUs, CPUs. So you can essentially move that game without much work. It's not to say there's no work, but there's not much work. It's like upgrading your PC. It's like putting a new graphics card, a new SSD, a new CPU in your PC. It still runs Windows. You can still play the same games.
And, because there is that kind of more blurred line between generations this time around, like that there is more crossover between the PS4 and the Xbox One and current gen tech than there has been in the past. This isn't surprising. There's only like 5 million PS5s in the wild, and there are like 100 million PS4s. Frankly, it wouldn't make good business sense to not put those games out on PS4 and make them available. And the like vitriol that I've seen, and not even necessarily just vitriol, but people who are like, I think again, they're complaining, and if that's how they feel, that's fine. But I just don't understand it. Like this narrative that the PlayStation 5 should have just been delayed if all these games are going to come out on PS4. Why? Like that makes no sense. Like
Yeah.
I bought a PS5 at launch, and I have gotten a ton of use out of it. Like all of the games that I bought that I've played on PS5, I wouldn't have wanted to play them on PS4 with 3-minute load times. Like if that's
Yeah,
what
that's the
you
problem,
as a
isn't it?
PS4 owner want to do, that's your prerogative, and great for you. But I don't feel like I wasted my money getting a PS5 at launch, and I'm really excited to play Ratchet, which is an actual exclusive in 6 days. So, I don't see how those games coming to PS4 hurts me at all.
It might not, but I mean, my concern would be, and I'm just playing devil's advocate here, is
Yeah,
that
let's do it.
you're again targeting the lowest common denominator, which is a PS4, which came out in 2013, versus, a brand new console that can support ray tracing, has the super fast SSD. What is there any kind of loss in making these cross-gen games? Gran Turismo 7, for example, was specifically announced as a PS5 exclusive, whereas God of War and Horizon weren't. It was kind of assumed God of War would be because they didn't do the same thing they did with Horizon, which was, oh, it's also coming out on PS4. But Gran Turismo 7, their presentation made a big thing about how this is going to have full ray trace lighting. It's only possible on PS5. And they're now kind of stepping that back a little bit. And I don't think that matters, having baked shadows and baked lighting. You look at how nice Forza Horizon looks on Xbox, and that looked fantastic even on an original Xbox. I had an Xbox One S, and it looked amazing on that, let alone my Xbox Series X. So I can understand some concern there. But having said that, I can see maybe these decisions were made from a business perspective in that
Yeah.
perhaps they didn't sell as many PS5s as they wanted due to the semiconductor shortage. And if they could have produced more PS5s, and by 2022, when Gran Turismo 7's seemingly due out, maybe they were hoping that they would have 20 million, 25 million, 30 million PS5s in the wild, and that seems to like is not going to happen because they just can't make enough chips, and that's the
Right.
same for everyone. So I think that probably is a factor, but I can see why some people may be disappointed, in that it might seem like they're not going to get everything they want. But from my perspective, having just seen how great Horizon Forbidden West looks, and we got a little bit more information from a Game Informer video that we'll
Yeah.
talk about in a minute, how great that looks and how many features of the PS5 they're tapping into with lighting changes, the things like the water are
How
different
many
in
characters are
on
on
PS5.
screen?
Yeah, exactly. Things like that really taps into the PS5, and if you just get a slightly worse version, maybe one that's on par with what Horizon Zero Dawn looked like on PS4, I think that's fine. And I think someone who played Horizon Zero Dawn that just wants more of that is going to be happy with what they get. And if they can then see, wow, this looks incredible, it's like a real step up on PS5, maybe that encourages them to buy a new console.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm coming down on it because I think everything that you're saying makes sense, but I also think that it comes from and I'm not I want to be clear, I'm not saying this to you. I mean, like, I think that argument comes from like a place that makes a lot of assumptions about like why game design decisions are made that are not necessarily based in reality. Like I don't think that it's a thing where like, you know, Herman Hulst and the powers that be at PlayStation came to Gorilla and were like, you have to make Horizon work on PS4. I don't think that's what happened. I don't think that they came and were like, you have to make God of War work on PS4. I think that there are games that probably started development with PS4 in mind. As new technology became available and everything, obviously they knew they would be targeting the next PlayStation as well, but it's a game that's kind of made on the cusp. It's going to be a game that's mostly made and relying on old technology, and it's going to take advantage of some of the new bells and whistles. That's normal. That's like what most development goes through, right? And I think that the only thing in my mind you need to look at to prove that that's the case, that this isn't something that they're being forced into, is that Ratchet and Clank is PS5 exclusive. And Insomniac has said the reason that Ratchet and Clank doesn't run on PS4 is because it can't. Because of all the background loading that you need to do.
Yeah, I mean that warp mechanic
Yeah.
where you go for the rifts, there's no way that could be done on PS4 with that slow drive, which
No.
is the main reason why it needs to be done on the next gen console, or sorry, current gen console.
So in my mind, if like you're looking at a Horizon or a God of War that have a more traditional structure, like what's the trade-off there, right? Like you'll have a worse looking version, it'll run at a lower FPS, it'll maybe have less features or less characters on screen, and it'll have load times.
Let's pull up then. Again, Nibel broke down some of the stuff from Game Informer's video, which we'll put a link to in the show notes if you're interested in watching the full video. But some of the PS4 stuff was brought out. So he highlighted that a lot of the games being developed on PS4 and is still being playtested on the PS4. The PS5 has a different water rendering technique than the PS4, and hero lighting, which we saw in the presentation that they did, is only available in cutscenes on PS4, whereas it's available in real time on PS5. So there's lighting changes, rendering changes. On top of that, we've got, stuff with the DualSense 3D audio, which is also only available on PS5. So they are really tapping into the feature set that the PS5 offers. And then on top of that, I'd imagine the resolution target is going to be vastly different from a base PS4 to a PS5.
It says it also has a 60 FPS performance mode on PS5. Obviously, it won't hit that on PlayStation 4. So,
oh wow, I would absolutely be playing that game in 60 FPS. I don't care what it drops. Like, if that goes down to 1440p, that's the mode I'd be playing that game in.
I don't know that. Well, we'll see. I don't want to make any. I don't want to make any comments that are untoward, but not untoward. That sounds like I'm gonna say something bad. I just mean like I don't think it'll hit 60 FPS on PS4, even in performance.
No. I'm not saying on PS4. If I was picking between like native 4K 30 frames per second versus 1440p 60 FPS. I would pick 60 FPS and a lower resolution any day of the week.
I mean, I feel like that's the official stance of the PotsCast. You should always play on performance mode, not resolution mode. Okay, yeah. Frame rates are more important. Period. If you don't believe me, when you get a PS5, get Miles Morales or Spider-Man and play in performance mode, and then play in the shiny ray tracing mode, like back to back. And it's like, oh no, I'm swinging through molasses. What happened?
Yeah, it ruins you. It really ruins you.
Yeah, it really does. But anyway, so I'm not concerned about this. Like I don't know. I guess I get it. I guess I get people feeling frustrated or feeling like I've seen people being like, oh, Sony lied, it's a bait and switch. They said that these games are coming out and now they're not. And they said they were going to be this and they're not. And it's like, I don't know. Like, if you really feel that burned, like, that's your prerogative, I guess. But I don't know. I said this when I bought the consoles, and I'll say it again now. Buying a console is an investment, right? I've already played several games on the PlayStation 5 where my experience was leagues better because it was on PS5, right? And could I have played those games on PS4? Sure. I would have had a worse time. I would have wasted more time at load screens and stuff like that. For me, that was enough of a reason to buy it. I'm getting my first proper exclusive in 6 days. I'm sure that's going to keep me busy for a while. I don't know. Like, I'm happy with my purchase. I'm excited for these games to come later, and the fact that other people will get to play them on PS4 is good for them and hurts me not at all. And I think that this is probably the last year where this will even be a talking point, because I imagine from 2022 on, maybe there's one or two more games that are cross-gen, but there's only so much longer you can go before they can't be anymore.
I think maybe from first party, but I think we probably will see an extension of third party games coming out on cross-gen for years to come.
I don't know.
Especially the staples like FIFA. They're always going to be cross-gen for a very long time. But
those
newly developed franchises, maybe not.
I think when you're talking about, like your FIFAs and Maddens and stuff like that, that might happen. That's pretty normal, right? Like I remember they were putting out like Madden and FIFA on the PS2 for like 10 years, like afterwards.
Yeah.
So yeah, that might happen. But I think like when you're talking about like big games, your big,
like the Far Cry 7 or we know everything from Bethesda is probably going to be going straight onto
your Far Cry 7s, your Starfields, those kinds of games. I think will probably mostly, although Starfield I guess could probably still be cross-gen, but that's because that's been in development for a long time.
I really hope that new engine has some massive improvements. So I went back and I played Fallout 4 and I was like, oh god, turn the blooming down. It's awful. Every time you put like the Pip-Boy on, it's like, oh no.
Yeah, there's definitely some room for improvement over there. There was a couple other little tidbits. We got confirmation on Jason's story from a while back where Herman confirmed that Bend Studio is working on a new IP based on the open world systems of Days Gone. So you're going to see that, that tech.
So it's not what I thought it was. It's not Siphon Filter. It's something brand new, which is kind of exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good for them too. Like I feel bad for Bend. I feel like Bend is a really talented studio, and I feel like they've just been kind of like, I just feel like they've never quite had their moment, like they did Siphon Filter back in the day that people vibed with, and like then they kind of got like, they had like 3 or 4 games that got canceled. They did the Uncharted spinoff, which is like, by all accounts a good game, but it's also like the only Uncharted that like Sony doesn't acknowledge anymore.
Yeah, that's not canon at all.
I mean, it is. Like in Uncharted 4, there's a reference to it in the very beginning, and that scene in the attic. There's like stuff from that game up there, but like
fair
that's
enough,
it.
Yeah.
It's very minor. And obviously it wasn't in the Uncharted collection, like, whatever. And then like Days Gone came out. Obviously it wasn't super well received by critics, but like fans really liked it. It definitely seemed to justify the existence of a sequel to try and like, capitalize on what they had done, but we talked all about why that didn't come together for a multitude of reasons. So and then like they almost ended up, getting like absorbed by Naughty Dog. And it's just like, man, yeah. I want to see them have a win. I really want to see them come out with a game like this next IP, hopefully, that like does for them what Horizon did for Guerrilla. Where Guerrilla went from being like, oh yeah, they're one of Sony's studios, to being like, oh, they are
the Killzone studio. We get them to make a new Killzone every time there's a new console, and it's like that's all they were. And then they got the opportunity to kind of get out of that rut and explore something fresh and something new, and hopefully Bend gets the same opportunity.
Because I really want to see that. Like, I want to see Bend and a lot of the other like smaller studios, like Pixel, Opus, and some of those other teams, like get to come up to the A League. Because it's like, I feel like right now it's like you've got Naughty Dog is like S tier. You've got Santa Monica, and I'm not saying that like I feel this way. I feel like this is how Sony feels. You've got like Santa Monica and Gorilla and Insomniac, kind of locking down that A tier, and then you've got kind of everybody else in the B tier, and then you've got a couple studios that are kind of hovering in the C tier. And like I want to see more of those teams like kind of make the jump and make something that like connects with a larger audience, Because I feel like they've
I
just
think
got.
part of the problem seems to be though that Sony hasn't been willing to give them the opportunity. Like Bend had these ideas and they wanted to press on with the sequel to Days Gone, and it's just like, no, you're gonna work on this thing with Naughty Dog, and
I
you're
mean,
gonna
the
support them
problem
doing
was that
that.
they didn't have a pitch that came together, though, right? Because it was like they lost their creative director. Like it was like they wanted to work on it, but it wasn't really like I don't know. It
Mm.
sounds like it never really came together. Is the problem that like they didn't have a strong pitch for Days Gone 2. So it's like,
Hmm.
what are we gonna do? Move forward? Like I don't know. Um, I think it's probably a mix of those two things. That like Sony is a little bit more risk averse right now, and also that like you got to have a strong pitch. You've got to be coming out the gate swinging with like, here's our next idea. So I don't know. Hopefully, this new IP is their opportunity to kind of show people what they can do. Because I think it's clear that Days Gone had a lot of really strong ideas. So I hope that I hope this one does a little bit better for them. They also announced that Sony has plans to further invest in the PC gaming space. So I bet that means probably more of these
More
ports.
games.
Yeah, more PlayStation games coming to PC, which I think makes a lot of sense. Again, I know that there are probably a lot of people who kind of have their knickers in a twist about that, but I mean, it's a good strategy, right? Like data shows there's not a ton of crossover between PC and console gamers where there's some of us who are platform agnostic, but generally speaking, we tend to sit in one camp and sit in that camp, right? So like how much are those people going to go out and buy these games on PlayStation? How much are they going to go buy a console? They probably won't, but they would pick them up if they're on Steam. So it's a good opportunity to get some of these games out to other people and like let's put out old games, like they're putting out Uncharted 4. Okay, that's fine. I played that like 10 years ago. Like great.
Yeah, I know, but it would be great to play that at like native 4K, 60 frames per second plus.
They
It
got a
would be cool
patch.
to
Give
see
me
that.
that shit on PS5. Let's
Hmm.
go. That's what I want. And then the last thing was that Team Asobi is being expanded, and they're working on a franchise, quote, for all ages with global appeal. So that's great. Obviously, the closure of Sony Japan studios was kind of a bummer. Like they've done a lot of like weird, like quirky stuff. They were like,
Everybody's golf.
yeah, they were like the weird studio, and like they
Uh-huh.
made games that appealed to the Japanese market, and like we're like, no, that's what we want to do. We want to do weird stuff. But Team Asobi, obviously with Astrobot, I think really got a lot of people's attention, and I know I was really impressed by what they were able to do. I would love if the franchise that they're building is Astrobot. I would love to get like a full length Astrobot game from them.
I
Um,
think it is because they pitched it as the team behind Astrobot, and we're now developing a new thing
that's a
with
bummer.
global appeal.
But that's okay. Because honestly, I'm happy to see whatever big 3D platformer they want to make. Like, yeah, more power to them.
Hmm.
I'm
Yeah,
excited
they're
by the fact
awesome.
that Sony is making like a studio to make 3D platformers that are all ages games. Like, that's exciting. Big gap in their
Yeah, me,
portfolio.
me too. Did you read this article though? Because there were a couple of tidbits in this that really excited me. I don't know if you just saw the kind of breakdown,
I
but
I read it when it came out, so like I don't like remember everything. So yeah, what's up? What was
so
the?
it was in Japanese language, the word asobu means to play, which is where their name comes from. So they settled on asobi. And these simple five letters were a surprisingly fitting name with a good sound, so that's why they called it Sobi. I always wondered what it meant,
That's
and
cute.
to be a Japanese name, it's really cool. Essentially the same as Lego means to play as well. And then the fact that they've got members from several other countries,
Yeah.
England, Germany, France, Scotland, Korea, Spain, and Colombia. So it's not just like Japanese. And I guess that's where they said that it's important for them to kind of have that diverse background so they know what works in all cultures.
It's cool that like, oh, excuse me, I missed these. Oh, excuse me. It is cool to see like how many of Sony's teams are like really international like that. Because obviously, Gorilla is based in the Netherlands, but they've got a bunch of Americans and Brits on the team too, I think. And yeah, I think that's probably just a good idea, you know, especially if you want to make like games that appeal to a global market. Like, you know, there's definitely such a thing as too many cooks in the kitchen, but I think as long as you have like one person or a few people who have like a strong creative vision that are open to, you know, listening to everybody else on their team, it's like that's it's a strong foundation to build a good game. Yeah, so I mean, lots of good news here, lots of exciting news. I am very excited for the future of PlayStation right now, and I feel like they've got a lot of cool stuff, a lot of exciting irons in the fire right now, and you know, just like talking about like these games on the horizon, no pun intended. I am really excited for all of them, and I imagine that they will be some pretty strong Game of the Year contenders when they roll around. So, good luck, Sony. Keep that ball rolling. All right, so let's jump into our main topic this week. Of course, E3 season is almost upon us. A week from now, from today, when we're recording this on the 6th, we will be jumping into our first events of the E3 season with Ubisoft Forward and Devolver Digital. On the 13th, we've got Xbox and Bethesda's game showcase. We've got the Square Enix Presents showcase. We've got the PC Gaming Show and the Future Gaming Show. We've got Back for Blood getting a show from WB Games. We've got Take-Two and Capcom the next day on the 14th. And then, of course, on Tuesday, we have the main event, the Nintendo Direct, that I assume will be the Direct to end all Directs, because good God, it's been a while. We don't know what's happening later this year. We don't know what's happening the next couple of years. It's all over the place. So obviously, we have the makings of a very exciting E3, I think, on our hands, especially after it going away last year. You got to imagine people are ready to come out swinging. So, what we wanted to do in our main topic this week was to lay down some E3 predictions, y'all. So if you are familiar with our predictions in the past, what we like to do is we like to make a list of our predictions. We place our bets. We have one risky pick that is our double points. That it's a crazy thing that we don't think will happen, but if it does happen, you get double the points. So that's a fun one. So for E3 here, you wrote that we should do 5 predictions each. They have to be different from our ones that we've already done. We can't have the same predictions as one another. And we'll go one after another and flip a coin to decide who goes first. We'll recap predictions in 2 weeks after E3 is all done and decide who wins. If there's a tie, the community will pick a winner on Discord, and the winner gets to decide... ? So we had a couple things to figure out here right now. I think, first of all, are you locked in on 5 predictions each? Because if we only have 5 predictions, we're not getting that many, which is fine if we want to do that. But, like, there's so many shows, we can't even do one per show, which I'm good with. But I'm just saying, do you maybe want to expand on
I
this?
think it's fine, because mine were more, like, generic, like, things related to E3 or things happening. But I guess we can up them if you want. I wasn't really like, I think some of them are kind of obvious. It's like,
well, that's the question though, right? Like, do we want to include obvious stuff as well? Because if we do, then I say we go for 10 and let's play the points game. Because that's what we did with our original predictions, right? It's a mix of things that are actually predictions and some that are like obvious things that you said to get points.
No, I don't want obvious, because I think that's too easy. I really do think that's too easy.
Okay. All right.
Because I could look at the Square Enix thing where it says we're going to hear from Eidos Montreal and go, oh, there's going to be a new Tomb Raider there. And it's like...
I don't think that's an obvious prediction, though. Because I think the Tomb Raider franchise has kind of been put on ice right now.
Okay, maybe we'll see then.
What do you think? All right. Let's go for 10.
And all right, well, I've not got enough then, so I'm gonna have to figure these out as we go
All
through.
right. Well,
Uh,
that's
so
perfect.
you can go first then, I think.
Okay, that sounds good. So real quick, before we do our, this will give you a second. I'll recap our other predictions so you can know the ones that we're not allowed to put on the board in case you're a new listener. If you haven't listened to the show in a while and you missed our last predictions recap, which we did. So my predictions for 2021 so far is Switch Pro is coming in 2021. Grezzo will release another Zelda remake in 2021 in honor of Zelda's 35th anniversary. 2021 will see the fewest AAA third-party ports of any year on the Switch. Pokemon's 25th anniversary will be commemorated by the re-release of a classic game. Nintendo will continue to fail to properly address Joy-Con drift. We will get a full reveal of Breath of the Wild 2. Nintendo will remain quiet in Q1 of 2021 while they get their plans in place. Pokemon will release the next proper Pokemon, or will tease the next proper Pokemon game but not release it. Nintendo will release another limited release, and my risky pick was that Nintendo will release an N64 classic for the 25th anniversary of the console. And then for Steve, there will be another 2D Zelda game released in 2021. Metroid Prime 4 will not be released in 2021. Nintendo will announce a new IP. 2 new Switch consoles will be revealed in 2021. Splatoon 3 will be announced. Breath of the Wild 2 will be released in the second half of 2021. GTA 5 will get ported to the Switch. We still won't hear more about Bayonetta 3, and a new Switch online game like Tetris 99 will be released. And then the risky pick was that Xbox Game Pass will be announced for Nintendo Switch. So we did a check-in, I think, last week, right, Steve?
Yeah, it was last week, and yeah, we checked in, and mine is not looking too great. So if you want to know, then go listen to last week's.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've got a lot of orange, which are basically going to turn red.
Yeah, so we won't go through like where we're at with our points and everything with that. If you want to hear that conversation, check it out from last week. But I did just want to roll through those real quickly in case you're like, why aren't you talking about this or that or whatever, right? Because we already do have some relevant some stuff that could come out at E3 on this board. So if you don't see them in our E3 predictions, that's why. All right, so last thing I guess we need to decide before we jump in here, Steve, is what is the winner going to get? Where are we landing on this? Or you want to just do the same rules? Loser has to play a game that the other picks, or?
Yes, a game. It can't be. You can't make me play 3 games. That's cheating.
No, I can though.
And
if it comes on one
I'm picking
disc,
all fucking easy ones then.
if it comes on one disc, what do you want from me?
Disc? What's a disc?
You're a physical guy. I thought, you know.
No, I told you I'm getting mainly digital because of quick resume.
Okay. All right. So is that what we're gonna decide though? Winner gets to pick a game. Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, go on then.
Okay. How about this? We'll put it this way so that we'll put a pin on it so it's very clear what the thing is. If I lose, I will play the Hitman trilogy. How about?
Yes, that works for me, and I will play fucking Mass Effect.
Good. Agreed. We got it. We got this. All right. Okay, so I'm going first then.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay. All right. My first one is going to be that at the Square Enix Presents that we will get our first trailer for Final Fantasy 16.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. You know, we had the game announced a while ago. We haven't seen anything about it. Seems like a good time to talk about it.
Okay, fair enough. Yep.
All right. First on the board.
Mine are way too risky. All of them are like risky. Oh, I'm gonna end up playing that game.
Yes.
We will see the next BioShock at the Take-Two event.
Wow. Okay.
I feel like it's been a long time. We know it's in development. I think it's ready to either tease it or show it. I think it's probably going to be a teaser that's going to be like BioShock and then a name or number 4 or whatever.
Okay. So Do you want to say we'll see a tease for the next Bioshock then?
I think it's just the next Bioshock because if they show more than that, I think that's fine. But I do think it's just going to be an announcement of the next Bioshock.
So announcement. I'm nailing you down.
Yeah.
It's got to
All right.
be
We will see. The next Bioshock will be announced at the
okay.
Take-Two event.
Okay, we will see the announcement of the next Bioshock. I feel like I have to get pedantic because like we
Yeah,
got very
I can
pedantic
tell.
in our original ones, and it ended up like
It's
making a
worked out
difference.
for you, yeah. I know it has, yeah. Because some of them, like I feel like, well, it worked out for me on one of them. You were like, Grezzo's gonna do this, that, and the other, and I was like, oh, we fucked
And they're
yourself there.
definitely not right. So that's exactly why it's important because it ends up there's more strategy to
Uh-huh.
it. So if I say one that's too vague, you push me on it, and I'll nail something down. That's fine. Okay. Huh. Okay. I have like one that feels like a big risk. I'm gonna save it because I don't think you're gonna say it. Okay, I got mine. Mine is one of my easy ones. We will see the next Smash Fighter at Nintendo's Direct.
Okay, all right. Well, I will say that my one, which is related to that, the next Smash Brothers fighter will be Shadow Dropped,
Oh, okay.
which is a shout out to Brandy because he said that on Twitter, and I agree with him. I think we're gonna see it.
Okay. I think that's a good one. I think that there's a good likelihood that that'll happen. We'll see though. Because they've
Bit too
also done the thing
specific
where they
compared
announce
to
it.
yours.
I'm sorry, what was that?
It's a bit too specific compared to yours. I feel like yours is an easy one. That's a very easy pick.
I mean, yeah, that's why I did it. Because I feel like it's a slam dunk. We haven't heard about a new fighter in a while. There's two more. You got to tell us about one sometime. That's the thing. You got to have a good mix of the crazy ones and the believable ones, so you get some points. All right, because I've got two that are bold for Xbox, and I think that there's some truth to both of them, but I'm struggling
Well,
with
the risk is going to come at the end. That's the
It's
last
not a
one.
risky pick. It's a bold pick because I'm gonna have to say that a thing will happen. I can't, I don't want to like vague book all of these.
All right, okay.
All right, this will be my first one, or my next one. We will get our first proper look at Starfield with a 2022 release window.
Okay. I think you're crazy, but okay.
You gotta shoot for some of them,
Uh-huh.
But I mean,
I
I think it makes sense, right? Like you think about it, game's been in development a long time. We haven't seen anything of it except for the logo thing that they did at the presentation a couple years ago. Now that they're under the Microsoft banner, you got to imagine that like Microsoft's trying to figure out what their next couple years look like schedule wise. I feel like it's not crazy to think that the game comes out next year, especially with all the rumblings we've heard about it. So the idea of them showing it for the first time now, and I don't necessarily think it'll be like full gameplay reveal, but I think like our first actual look at something that is like, let's talk about the world of Starfield, right? Like maybe it's a cinematic trailer, maybe it's like Todd Howard coming out
that, yeah.
and being like, oh, like let's talk about Starfield. In the world of Starfield, you're a ship captain and you're going to be exploring all these planets, and just giving us more of an idea of like what the actual moment-to-moment gameplay looks like, whether or not we actually see any of it. I think it's going to be the first time that we properly discuss it, All right. So that's 3 on the board.
Okay, my next one. While we're on All right, while we're on Microsoft, I think Phil Spencer is going to be at the Nintendo Treehouse.
Okay. Phil Spencer makes an appearance at Nintendo Treehouse. That's a bold one. What makes you think that? He's going to be showing off a game? They're going to be talking about
No, I think it's gonna be shown off a streaming platform.
You think? At the
Yeah,
treehouse?
yeah. He will be there, and he will like be chatting with them, and he'll be like, "Oh, hi, Phil." Miyamoto shows up at those tree houses.
Yeah.
I don't think it's impossible that he won't be there with Doug Bowser.
Okay. All right. I like that.
That is a risky as fuck. All my picks are fucking risky.
Yeah, so far you've got some risky ones.
I thought that's where we were going with, and then you're like, "No, let's go with easy peasy picks."
Both. I could very easily lose my points on Starfield because I said 2020. Like if they come out and there's just no release, then it's like, oh
No, they're gonna say 2022. Like we've heard from Jason that is targeting 2022 holiday season,
yeah,
and Jeff Grubb I think said that.
he has.
So it's like easy peasy one.
Well, sorry, I did my research, Steve.
You could take that one to the bank.
I love how you're like, I want to do a predictions episode 2 weeks ago, and you've given it no thought until right now, and then now you're mad.
Thought. I had most of my predictions down,
Well,
and
we'll see what
then you're
happens.
like, let's do turn.
You could have pushed back. It's okay. On the bright side, Steve, I only have so many, so I'm gonna run out pretty soon too, and get into some of the crazy ones.
Well, that's good. That's what I like to hear.
All right, so here's my next one. I think we're gonna get another look at Halo Infinite with a vague release window. Like I don't think it'll get a date.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
Okay, so I'm gonna say second look at Halo Infinite vague.
I'm going with an easy one then.
Release window. Okay.
I'm going with another easy one for Xbox. We will see a release date of Flight Sim for Xbox.
That's a good one. Yeah. Release date for Flight Sim. Okay. So we're at 4 apiece right now. Coming up on my 5th. All right. Okay, this is a bit of a riskier one, but I'm going to go for it. I think we will get more Zelda ports announced, but not a deep dive look at Breath of the Wild 2. So, like, we might get another trailer for Breath of the Wild 2. We might have a bit of a conversation about it, but I don't think it's going to be the E3 deep dive on Breath of the Wild 2 that we got with Breath of the Wild 1, because I think since it's the anniversary, we have Skyward Sword coming very soon. I bet you that they're going to be like, maybe it's Wind Waker, maybe it's whatever. They announce some of those other ports that are going to come because they want to announce those and get people excited about them or buying them before they blow their load on Breath of the Wild 2.
Okay, fair enough.
All right, so we'll see Nintendo to reveal more Zelda ports. No deep dive on Breath of the Wild 2. I could see us getting the name for Breath of the Wild 2 rather than the untitled sequel to Breath of the Wild.
Okay, yeah, I could see that. That works.
But I don't think it'll be anything like.
Yeah, maybe I'll make that one of my picks. I think we are going to see the reveal of a game, and this is a real obscure one. The reveal of a game that will then have some controversy around it afterwards. So whether that is like the Harry Potter game gets a reveal, and there's some like controversy around there's like a trans character or there's not a trans character, or a game is revealed that's cross-platform on everything but PlayStation again, and there's some controversy around that. But a game is revealed, and there is some controversy after the show.
So this is vague. I'll give it to you, but we have to put a window on it. So
it's within the week. So like by the time we've come to do the presentation, like come to evaluate them, if there's no controversy at that point, then it doesn't count.
Okay. So we'll say
but a game will be announced with some controversy after the show.
A game will be announced with some imminent controversy.
Yeah. I'm thinking like Far Cry 6, where everyone was like, it's not political. Oh, it actually is political. That kind of shit.
Yeah. No, I think that makes sense. Hell, we could see more of Far Cry 6, and they'll be like, too political. Like that.
Yeah, exactly.
That feels like a
So we're
safe
up
bet.
to 6.
Yeah, we're at 6
No,
apiece right
5.
now. Oh, are we?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, this will be a 6 right now. Okay. Now we're getting into the... We're starting to scrape the bottom of the barrel for me here.
I can go next if you want to have another think.
Okay, you got another one? Go ahead.
Nintendo will reveal a brand new IP.
Isn't that one of your regular ones? Yeah.
Shit, is it?
It is.
All right, okay. Can't
And
have
it
that
already
one
happened, but you can't do it a second time.
then. Okay, all right, then I will do Capcom will reveal a new Mega Man game.
You piece of shit.
What? Is that one of yours?
No, it's just like, oh, yeah, okay. What if I'm like, oh, yeah, Mario will appear in the Nintendo Direct?
No way! Like, there has not been a new Mega Man announced in years. All they do is they fucking port the last one all the time.
Mega Man 10 came out like 2 years ago?
Like, no way.
Yeah, right? Wasn't that 2018? Mega Man 10.
2010.
No, wait, it's 11 then. Right? Because one came out. Yeah, it's 11. Came out in 2018.
All right, well that's 3 years, so I think that's solid then.
That's fine.
I'm happy with that.
That's fine. I'm not upset with you about that. All right, you know what? I'm going to take this one. We will see more of Splatoon 3.
Okay.
I think that's risky, but I also feel like there's a good chance that game comes out like sooner than later. So like how many times do you have to show it again? Like I know they just announced it earlier this year, but like maybe we actually see some gameplay now. I don't know.
Okay. All right. I'm trying to decide which one I want to keep as my risky pick, and I think I'm going to keep that one.
I have my risky
So-
pick set.
Nintendo will have someone else at another E3 event.
So okay, so
So
we'll
I'm
say
thinking Miyamoto shows up at Microsoft or Ubisoft, or it's, someone else. It doesn't have to be Miyamoto, but a representative will be at another E3 event.
okay, yeah, we'll say at another E3 event. Yeah, a Nintendo representative will appear at another E3 event.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. All right. Okay. Ooh. Okay.
Oh, I need one more, don't I?
How many do we have right now? We're at 7. 2, 3, 4,
No, I'm at 8. You're at 7.
6. Okay, yeah, this is my 7th. Okay.
And the 10th one is our risky pick, right?
Yeah, and that I've already got.
And
So
you can't say Shin Megami Tensei 5 is going to be at the Nintendo event, because that's an absolute cheat, because that got leaked this
No, I
week.
know. I'm not gonna say that. Okay. All right. I've got a one that's probably crazy, but I'm just gonna throw it out there because I don't. All right. Yeah. No, that doesn't make sense. Shoot. Okay. I've got like a few that I'm like half committed to, and I gotta just pick a lane. Shit. All right. For I'm really torn. I'm really torn because I've got a few that feel too obvious, and I don't want to just try to like take free points. But then I've got a bunch that feel like insane, and I don't think will actually happen. I'm thinking like one of them that I'm thinking about, right, is like, could we see the announcement of a GTA 6? And that seems crazy. That seems like
you're
that will
wild,
not happen.
'cause- No.
Like ever.
because Take-Two don't. Rockstar doesn't come with Take-Two; they come as Rockstar.
Right. Exactly. So it's like, what else would Take Two have for us that isn't a Bioshock then? Because it
Well,
has to
shitload of
be
2K games. Like I've got another one that I was thinking of. That I was
for
gonna.
2K.
Yeah, I'm not telling you because that's gonna be my next pick.
You're not telling me. All right.
And it's
Okay.
an easy one.
It's an easy one, huh?
Oh yeah,
Wow. All right. All right.
because I've got what, two, and then my risky.
This one might be a throwaway, but I'm gonna do it. I think I think we will get confirmation of the existence of the Metroid Prime trilogy.
Okay, okay.
All right.
The next XCOM will be shown at Take-Two.
Okay. I think that's riskier than
Then I think,
yeah.
yeah, probably. I think looking at my list, pretty much all of them, apart from maybe Flight Sim and the Capcom one, are risky as fuck.
Because
But we'll
here's
see.
my thing about the XCOM thing. They already said that the Marvel XCOM that leaked, so that's a leak. So like,
I'm not thinking it's the Marvel XCOM.
you think okay? I think we need to make a caveat here. Then, if it comes out and it's called Marvel XCOM, you don't get the point then, because that has already
Okay.
been confirmed.
All right, but not Marvel XCOM then.
Okay.
Or maybe I want to change this to something else then. No, fuck it. I'll change it to something else.
Okay.
I think we're probably going to see another Civilization at the 2K. But no, change my mind. Back to the other one because Fire Axis ain't going to be working on XCOM and Civ at the same time.
Okay. So the next XCOM will be revealed at Take-Two, but not Marvel XCOM.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've got 7. That was your ninth?
No, this is my eighth.
6, 7, 8. Okay, that's your 8th. So the next one's your ninth.
Yeah.
All right. So. Okay. I've got another one for Xbox. I think we're gonna get an update on Fable.
Oh shit! I forgot that was even happening. I'm surprised you didn't go with the Rare game.
Yeah, I mean, I think we will, but I think that feels like less. Like we've seen
Less
like a
risky?
few trailers for that,
Yeah.
whereas like that feels more like I'm just stealing points. Whereas with Fable,
Okay.
we've literally
All right.
only seen the screen pop up, kind of
Mhm.
thing. So like we haven't seen shit besides an animatic for that. But I think this is a great time to show it off. Like you got to imagine, right? Like Xbox is how many months? 8 months ish into their next
I
console
think
generation.
it really depends what they're doing. Because last year it was, and all of these games are coming to Game Pass next year.
Yeah.
So if they do that thing again, it's unlikely that's going to happen. Because I don't think Fable's coming out
I don't think they should
in
though.
the next year.
I feel like they're gonna want to talk about the next 5 years of Xbox, so that you're like, I'm buying this because I want to play Halo this year. I want to play Starfield next year, but I also want to play Fable a few years from now. I also want to play that game from Bethesda, or not Bethesda. Obsidian.
Obsidian?
Like there are all these other games that like I feel like they're gonna want to start whetting our appetite for and letting us know like, hey, we've got stuff coming in the next couple of years. Like you want to
Okay,
be here.
fair enough. All right, I've got a toss up between two, and I'll tell you what they both are.
Okay.
And maybe we can pick between the two of us. So I've got Ubisoft will reveal a brand new IP because I think it's been a long time since we've seen anything, and I'm not like the last one they revealed, Skull and Bones, just didn't happen.
Still hasn't come out.
Um,
I think they said they
or-
were going to talk about it though this year, right?
yeah, I don't think they're going to though. Then Tomb Raider will be reported to Nintendo Switch. I'm gonna go with Tomb Raider, and
Okay.
that's any of the Tomb Raiders. So if it's Rise, Shadow,
The
or
modern
the
Tomb
first
Raiders.
one, though one of those three, any of the Tomb Raider trilogy, like the latest one, will be ported to Nintendo Switch.
I could see that. It's the anniversary.
Yeah, and one of them already runs on the Shield.
Okay, so that's your 9. Next is the risky pick.
I know, and it's really risky.
Okay.
It's stupid. That's what it is.
Mine's pretty bad too. So don't worry about it.
What if it's the same?
I hope not. Then I'm gonna have to come up with something else. Okay. Last one. Last legit one.
What about something at Squares? You haven't got anything at Squares, right?
I've got Square.
Oh, you do. Final Fantasy.
Final Fantasy
Yeah.
16, yeah.
Okay. What about Capcom?
You know what? Actually, I do have another one for Square. I think we'll get a extended look at the new Life is Strange.
No, you can't have that because they've already said that that's what's happening.
Fuck! Ah, damn
They
it!
said, here's a tantalizingly vague list of what you can expect to see. A deep dive on Life is Strange and a first look at the remaster collection.
Shit. Damn it. Okay. All right.
I don't know what Babylon's Fall is. Oh, that PS5 game. Oh, Platinum's. Okay.
Damn. Okay. So I can't do Life is Strange. I don't have anything for Capcom. I really don't. Oh,
I mean, I feel like they do like 3 games and that's it.
you know what? I do have something for Capcom. I bet that we will see the announcement of maybe not like DLC, but new content coming to Monster Hunter Rise.
Okay.
Game was super
And
popular.
is that announced? Is that announced at Capcom's?
Could
Or
be
are we
either or.
saying it doesn't matter?
Yeah, it
Okay,
doesn't
so
really
we're not
matter.
saying it matters.
Yeah, I don't
We're
think
not
it
getting
does.
specific on that one.
Nah,
Okay.
I don't think so. Because I could also see it being at both. Because you always get those double dips at E3 where it's like, we saw this yesterday. Yeah, okay. But you get maybe a different angle, or it's like, hey, at this one we're gonna say the Rathalos is coming, but at this one we're gonna say that the blue Rathalos is coming. You can see how many species of Monster Hunter monsters that I know off the top of my head. Okay, so that is our 9. Are you ready for your risky pick, Steve?
I am. Mario Kart 9 will be announced.
That is not mine, and I'm really glad that that's the one that you said. Okay. So for Steve, we have risky pick Mario Kart 9. I'm not even.
I think we can agree that it's risky, right?
Yeah, I think that's super risky. And not outside the realm of possibility risky, but very risky, which is exactly where you want to be, I think, for a risky pick. I hope that you'll agree on my risky pick that it exists in that same area. I think it's really fucking bold, but we'll see. I think that we will get our first look, our first tease, our first announcement of the rumored Donkey Kong project.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, okay, that's fine. I don't necessarily think that's as risky as mine because it's been rumored like crazy. No one's mentioned Mario Kart 9 and it's the best-selling game on Switch. So why would they make another one?
I mean, look, I know it's been rumored. I still think it's risky. I don't know that they're ready to talk about it yet, but I don't know. It's one that I definitely didn't feel confident as a regular one, but if it is and I get the points for it, then that sounds great.
I feel like the confirmation of the Metroid Prime trilogy is more risky than that one. But
I know. That's a risky one. All right, so let's go through our picks one more time, and then we'll call it a day here. So for me, I've got the first trailer for Final Fantasy 16 will be revealed at the Square Enix Presents show. New Smash Fighter revealed at the Direct. First proper look at Starfield with a 2022 release window. Second look at Halo Infinite with a vague release window. Nintendo to reveal more Zelda ports. No deep dive on Breath of the Wild 2. We'll see more of Splatoon 3. Confirmation on the existence of Metroid Prime Trilogy. An update on Fable. New content coming to Monster Hunter Rise. And then my risky pick is the first mention of the rumored Donkey Kong project.
For me, we will see the announcement of the next Bioshock at Take-Two events. A new Smash fighter will be shadow dropped. Phil Spencer will be at the Nintendo Treehouse. The release date for Flight Sim for Xbox will be announced. A game will be announced with some imminent controversy around it. Capcom will reveal a new Mega Man game. A Nintendo representative will appear at another E3 event. The next XCOM will be revealed at Take-Two, but it won't be the Marvel XCOM. Modern Tomb Raider will be ported to Nintendo Switch. And my risky pick is Mario Kart 9 will be announced.
And just so we remember what's at stake here, the loser will have to play the trilogy of the winner's choice. For me, that will be the Hitman trilogy, Hitman 1, 2, and 3. For Steve, it will be the Mass Effect Legendary Edition. That's Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3.
You really want to play Hitman anyway after watching it. So maybe I'll need to come up with another trilogy for you to play, but we'll see.
I mean, you just agreed to it. You have to decide right now.
It's fine. Hitman works. It's fine.
Okay, I mean, you could say Tomb Raider if you want.
No, Hitman. Hitman's better.
Okay, great. Well, then it's Hitman. I don't know why you're fighting me tooth and nail. You'll like Mass Effect if you just play it.
I know, I will.
Son of a bitch. You're like, I love games with good stories. I don't want to play a game with a good story. Son of a bitch. Anyway, you know, I feel pretty good about this. I feel pretty good about this list. I think there's a really good chance almost none of it happens. I think there's a really good chance almost all of it happens, which that's exactly where you want to be.
At least on yours anyway. Mine's like, oh, God. I feel like I should get 2 points for all of mine, you know?
No, some of yours are really fucking obvious. If they announce a new Mega Man game, that's like such a freebie, like... Especially because you said a Mega Man game. It's not even like you said the next Mega Man. Like if they announced a Mega Man port, if they announced a fucking mobile game, whatever, they could make Mega Man pachinko machine. You still fucking get it. Like, so that one's easy. You have a few that I think are really...
Well, the Flight Sim's a piece of piss. Yeah.
Flight Sim's a fucking lock. I think that's a great prediction. But I think some of them I think are really risky. Like Bioshock is risky. The Smash fighter being shadow dropped is risky. I think Phil Spencer making an appearance is risky. I think Controversy's a lock. I think Capcom one's a lock. I think the Nintendo rep at another E3 event, that sounds like pretty likely. I think that could be good.
The reason I said another E3 event, I couldn't make up my mind as to whether it was going to be at Xbox or a Ubisoft because they had Miyamoto there before for the Mario Rabbids. So whether there's another Mario Rabbids. Can we get
Mario Rabbids 2? Please. That game
could that count as the new XCOM game? I feel like that should count. It's like Mario XCOM.
I don't know. I don't think so. The thing is, if the Marvel thing hadn't already been like confirmed, like, then I would be like, yeah, that counts. I didn't know
it had been confirmed, to be honest.
Yeah. I think it's like to the bank confirmed that that's coming.
All right, well, we'll have to wait and see. In 2 weeks' time, we'll come back and we'll recap, but I know we'll all be watching with bated breath next week. And ticking these off. So, like, follow us over on Twitter if you're interested in following us, and then check in at the Discord. I'm sure everyone will be tracking the predictions as we go.
Yeah, we'll be doing some we'll definitely be doing some extra E3 content. We're still trying to figure it out just because most of the events are like during our work. So we're not totally sure how we're gonna make all that play out, but we will have an update for you on social media and on the Discord and everything. So if you want to keep up with us, go follow us on Twitter at LootPots. Follow me and Steve individually at _Pete and at Steve228UK. I got it. Nailed it. And keep up with us there, and we will let you know like what we're planning on doing, because I think it's probably going to be a mix of like extra podcast episodes, maybe a watch along here or there. So we're still hammering out the details today and tomorrow actually. So we'll have an update for you as soon as you can, and you'll be able to know where we're going to be keeping up with everything. But either way, we'll be covering all the events. So if you want to hear our thoughts on E3, they will be available. Anyway, thank you guys for joining us here on another episode of the PotsCast. Of course, I've been Pete. He's been Steve. And, if you want to get some more stuff from us, go to the Twitch channel, go to the YouTube, give it a subscribe, give it a like, share it with a friend. Write in with your predictions for E3 and what you want to see. What are the biggest announcements that you're hoping to see come through? I would love for our kind of E3 recap when we do go through these and everything. Like, I'd love to have some stuff from you, the listeners. So if there are like, your predictions, the things you want to see, but also if like you start watching the events and it's like, oh, your hypest announcements, the biggest moments, like write in. We want to hear what were the things that got you really jazzed, and we'll talk about them then. So with that, thank you for joining us on another episode of the podcast. We'll catch you next week, babies. Stay safe, stay sane, and have a happy, healthy E3. Goodbye. I love you.